Hey, do you know how to be how Jesus is in this world? I'm Chrystal Roy with Kingdom Exchange, and I want to talk to you about how we can start walking in the realm of the Spirit and get out of the realm of the flesh. So I want to read to you 1 John 4:17. And it says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has torment." God does not want us to walk in fear. He that fears is not made perfect in love. And then in the ESV it says, "By this love perfected with us, so that we may have confidence for the day of judgment, because as Jesus is, so also are we in this world." Not in the world to come. So let me tell you a God story about how to be as Jesus is in this world. We want to learn how, like Jesus taught us to pray to bring down God's will on earth as it is in heaven. So several years ago, 5 or 7 years ago, one of the clients of our real estate firm had discovered a problem and had come to us to sell her home. Now, I had met this lady before and discovered that although she had moved to our area and she and her boyfriend had each paid half and half to purchase a home in cash, so there would be no mortgage, that after a few years, he had actually died unexpectedly. When he died unexpectedly, of course, that was devastating, but she sensed that she didn't have to worry because she had a house that was paid for. But a few months later, she started receiving notices in the mail that your mortgage is due. Well, what she didn't know is before her boyfriend died, he had actually, without her knowledge or permission, taken out a mortgage on the home and was owing money to a mortgage company, which she did not have to pay. And I was tasked as the broker in charge of the real estate firm to represent her in foreclosure court. Now, if you know anything about the judicial system, you can't represent anyone in court unless you're an attorney who has been admitted to practice through the bar. But what had happened was when we discovered this problem, we immediately got her house on the market. It was going into foreclosure because she had ignored all those foreclosure notices. And let's say, for example, I don't remember the exact time frame. Let's say that the sale date of the foreclosure was June 1st of that year. So let's say March, we discovered the problem, we got the property on the market, and we got it under contract with Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer, so not an investor who was likely to either require so many repairs that it didn't give her enough money to move or something along those lines. But it was actually with a well-qualified Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer. And let's say that April 30th was the close date. When the bank discovered that our client had a contract on their property to sell, the bank accelerated the sale date and made it April 15th, so before we could close. And the way foreclosure court worked at that time was the homeowner had one more opportunity to go to foreclosure court. So that's when I was asked by the listing agent to step in and go represent our client in foreclosure court to prevent the house from being sold at foreclosure so she could sell it herself and then have some few dollars actually to be able to move back closer to her family in a different state. So I said, sure, I'll do that. And the morning of court, I went myself to prepare. I'd already prepared a file and had highlighted all the really super important things. So from a distance, if I had to hold the file up for the judge to see it, he would see yellow highlighting. And then my hope was he would ask, to see it closer. But before this, let me tell you what I did. So this is how to be as Jesus is in this world, okay? I had to go into a legal setting where I had no right to represent anyone. I was not an attorney, but I was representing her as a client of our firm. But before that, I went into the courts of heaven, and let me tell you what that's like. So by faith in the Spirit, okay, not any fancy stuff, but I think I was reading Translating God from Sean Bowles, and in that book he was talking about the court of heaven. So engaging Father God in the court of heaven for what I needed here on earth. So when Jesus taught us to pray, he said, Heavenly Father, our Father, right? Your Father, my Father, our Father, who is in heaven. So it's in that realm. It's not in the natural realm where I'm living. It's not in the realm just above our realm where demonic forces are at work in the air. Principalities, powers, rulers of the air. But in the realm of the Spirit. And I sat and by faith said, Father, I'm going into this natural courthouse, the foreclosure court on earth, and I take this foreclosure case where the trustee or the bank has accelerated this sale date so they can take back this property when we have a valid contract from valid buyers who are purchasing this home. What the bank is doing is wrong. It's dirty. So I went in the Spirit, prayed. I said, Father, I just see this situation entering into your court, into your docket. I know that you hear me. I can come boldly before your throne of grace. I bring this paperwork in and I ask that the judge on earth hear from you. And I exchange this foreclosure sale. I submit this to your kingdom where foreclosure sales and loss do not exist. And I call down on earth as it is in heaven, approved for the extension of this sale. So our client, the firm's client, can close on their sale and this lady can take her proceeds and move back home to be nearby her family. And then it was time for me to go. So I was not giving God a timeline, a deadline. The situation had its timeline, its deadline. So I had met this lady once before, just casually, before she became actually a client of the firm, because she and her family were doing some work for some of our investors. And I had met her before. I'd actually been to her house before that we were talking about. So I had some familiarity. So I walked in to meet her outside of Foreclosure Court, which was about to convene. I introduced myself to her in case she didn't remember me. And then she started telling me her experiences in this realm, having been in Foreclosure Court for a previous time. She was telling me, this is horrible. They're going to take my house. The last time I was in Foreclosure Court, all of the families lost their homes. So she's giving me her word, her report. And I said, I need you to very carefully hear me right now. I don't want you to say anything more. I want you to put this in my hands, make it my responsibility to stand before the court today on your behalf. And I don't want you to say any more words. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into this courtroom, and when your name is called, I want you to indicate who you are. You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to say here whatever's necessary. Without saying anything more, I want you to say, and this is the broker in charge of the real estate firm who has my house listed for sale and under contract with a buyer. And then let me take it from there. I don't want to hear anything more about your past experiences. The only thing we're going to focus on is moving forward from here. Okay? So she settled down a little bit, and I walked away because I did not want to hear anything more negative. I did not want to hear any bad report. I walked a little bit away. I gave some distance between us. Well, at this point, people started walking up to me and asking me, can I have your card? I want to hire you as my attorney. Well, that's wonderful. But I had to say I'm not an attorney. Now, I will correct myself here to say I have always loved the law of God. Now, I don't mean the top 10 don'ts. I mean the law of love. I have studied law in the courts of heaven. I have studied love. The love that says we are from God. The love that says we can be as He is in this world. It won't matter much if we're like He is in heaven. We need to exercise the authority that has been given us here. And the Bible tells us that the earth is groaning. So imagine when your stomach is groaning, it needs something, right? It could be groaning from sickness. It could be groaning from hunger. It needs a response. It needs attention. It needs fulfillment. So when the Bible says the earth is groaning for the revelation, for the sons of God to show up, all of creation, not just the earth, all of creation is groaning for the manifest sons of God, because we are supposed to come and we are supposed to execute judgment. We are supposed to execute authority, not against each other. That's where we get tangled up. We're not supposed to execute judgment against each other. We are supposed to execute judgments against principalities and powers and rulers of darkness. Okay? And that's what I was doing. We had an evil attack coming against this lady in the form of a bank's wrong actions. Now, I can't go up against, this big, bank is a 4-letter word. I, as an individual, cannot go up against this bank's unethical practices. But I can take this into the courts of heaven today on behalf of our client, over whose transaction I personally have authority as broker in charge of the real estate firm. Okay, so we listened through this long morning course. They call this person, that person. Now, when we went inside, I noticed where the attorneys were seated, and I happened to notice an attorney I had briefly introduced myself to couple of months before. So I went over and introduced myself. Hey, how are you doing? Do you remember me? This is the class that you taught, and I learned so much from you, and I just wanted to say hello, right? The trustee is there with a very long conference table with all kinds of stacked files to take all of these houses. It took a while for the magistrate or the judge to come in. He didn't come in immediately. But when everything got underway, our client said to me, because we saw again and again and again and again, not only was there favor for her transaction, literally this magistrate gave every homeowner during this court session more time for whatever they needed, okay? And she was looking at me like, I can't believe this, because last time they literally took everybody's house. And this time, I can't believe literally everybody's getting, do you need 2 more months? Do you need 3 more months? I'll give you 2 months. I'll give you 3 months. So that's what was happening. And her mouth was hanging open. But thank goodness she was being quiet, because I didn't want to hear any more, report of the bad report, right? I only wanted the report of the Lord. So our turn came when her name was called. So then her name was called, and the judge looked right at me, and he said, and who are you? And I said, Your Honor, my name is Chrystal Roy. I am the broker in charge of the real estate firm who has her home under contract with Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer. And I picked up my folder and I held it up with all my yellow markings. And we have the pre-approval letter. We are under contract and we're scheduled to close on blank date. And he said, approach the bench. So I approached the bench and I took the file folder where I had everything that he would need to see highlighted. So I walked around beside him and laid it down next to him. I said, may I? And he said, yes. I said, may I show you the pre-approval letter from the buyer's lender? Yes. May I show you the earnest money deposit that's been deposited? Yes. So anyway, he goes through and looks at everything that I have highlighted and sees the dates and the timelines needed. He said, well, how long do you need to close? And I gave him a date. He looks over at the gentleman from the bank with his long conference table with stacks of folders where he was going to take so many houses today. And he said, Mr. Trustee, are you okay with postponing the sale of this property? And what could Mr. Trustee say but, yes, Your Honor, I'm okay with that. So the judge picked up a stamp, and he took that court order for her house to be sold to the bank, and he wrote a date that extended. He said, I'm going to give you 6 more weeks just in case you have a delay and you can't close on time. I was like, that's wonderful. So he took his stamp and he stamped approved, 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 approved all over the delay for the forced sale of this lady's house. Now, we need to start operating from this kingdom realm. There's obviously the kingdom of darkness realm that's at work against us. If we quickly believe in angels, our ministering spirits, we have to also believe in what the Bible calls demons, rulers, powers, principalities of darkness. And we have obviously our physical realm where my body is telling me something, my body is speaking out, it's painful, it's itchy, whatever, okay? But we need to start living from how Jesus was able to live in this world. When he was faced with 5,000 people who were so famished that there was no way that they could travel back home to get food without fainting for blood sugar level problems, hydration problems, that he said to the disciples, feed them. And the disciple Philip said that would take 4 to 6 months' wages. And Jesus said, feed them, for he knew what he was about to do. So Peter said, hey, this little boy has 5 loaves and 2 fish. And Jesus said, bring them over. So Jesus, being as we are to be in this world, took those 5 loaves and 2 fish, which was not enough for anyone, and giving thanks. So we're creating an atmosphere of gratitude, not complaint. Do you know what they did last time? Everybody lost their house. I'm going to lose my house. We're shifting the atmosphere. My own atmosphere creates a frequency. My own body, my own thoughts, my own mind creates an atmosphere. And when I walk into a space, it can shift the atmosphere of the space. You've seen angry people come in, and you felt how that violence felt when you weren't feeling violent, but you felt it enter the room. You felt fear walk in a room. You felt joy walk in a room, right? So when Jesus decided, instead of focusing on the problem of people who are hungry, their blood sugar is dropping, and they're dehydrated, he shifted the atmosphere from concern to supply through gratitude and giving thanks for what he had. Looking up, okay, not geographically, but in the spirit. He's looking from the natural to the powers, principalities, rulers of darkness to above. He's looking all the way up to the realm of the spirit, where God rules, where your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Giving thanks, he broke the bread, and he told the disciples, you have a role in this. He told the disciples, arrange the people in groups of 10. So he put a structure in place to receive the blessing. So what do you have need of? What structure do you need to put into place to receive the blessing? what type of evidence do you need to take into the realm of the Spirit? Okay, I took in what is right, what is lawfully right for my client. I did the physical structuring is I laid out the file very well. I brought the correct documents to the top. I highlighted only what the judge needed to see for brevity so he could make a quick decision. There was no fumbling. There was no researching. There was no let me check on that. It was right there to present to the judge. This is what I'm asking for. This is the basis on why I'm asking. And we're asking for it all. We're asking for everything. Okay? So I want to ask you, how are you as Jesus is in this world? Right? So when someone has need of love, and that's their highest need, that perfect love that casts out fear, how do you structure that? Do you judge them because they didn't see love in the form you tried to give it? You know, we say it's the thought that counts, but it really is not the thought that counts. I had a really good friend who had been talking for one whole year about her ideal birthday celebration. And nobody heard her. In the end, when I called I texted her husband a couple of months before her birthday and said, hey, how are things coming together for her birthday celebration? And he tells me, not that they're going to do everything that she had been telling them for 1 year that she wanted, but they were going to do these other things that weren't special and they always did anyway, and they were just going to throw it onto that weekend. And I said, I've been hearing her say she wanted this for the past year. And why don't we go ahead and do what she's asked for the past year on this weekend? And he said, I didn't realize there was another weekend in between all the things we planned and her birthday. And I said, well, excuse me. I said, I've got it from here. I'll tell everybody what they need to do. So we pulled it off, okay? She never knew that they had planned something she did not want, okay? It is not the thought that counts. But I will tell you, during that party, and she was, it blessed her heart. She was so happy. It's what she always wanted. And when we were done, I said, hey, this is not what I want. This is not my ideal birthday celebration. She said, well, what do you mean? Because guess what she would have done for me? The exact same thing. Because that's what her heart would have wanted. And I said, no, I do not want that. That is not my idea of an excellent birthday celebration. It looks completely different from this, so please don't do this for me. Right? So when someone needs love, and their highest need is to feel secure, seen and heard and loved, find out what their idea of love looks like so that you can be as he is for that person in this world. So back to our client. She'd already found that her boyfriend had betrayed her financially. Didn't ever really know why. Was this gambling? Was this another woman? You know, there was some reason for the betrayal, financial betrayal. But what I did was walked in love. And I said, I'll go in and speak on your behalf, and I will stand in for you, and I will be as Jesus is in this world for you, loving you. That's what she needed right then. So I want to ask you, what need do you or someone you love have? What does the need look like? The need looks like something that is not heaven. So we take whatever that need is, and we say, Father, I'm coming into your throne of grace, your throne of provision. I come into your gates with thanksgiving. Because, you know, when you check into a court on earth, you got to take, you can't carry in any weapons. I once lost a really great pocket knife that my son had given me as a gift. I lost it trying to check into court. And you can't take in your phone. So when you check into the gates, the security gates at court, there are some specific rules. But when we enter the gates of heaven, we go in with thanksgiving. We shift the atmosphere of what's happening to now we're matching the frequency of heaven. We go into his courts, and there are a couple of different courts. One is like the royal court, where you're going in to see the king, which we are also doing, where you might curtsy, you might bow, depending upon the protocol of a particular royal court. And then you have the judicial court, where all rise, right? You have to stay behind the bar. You have to be seated in a particular way or in a particular place. You have to wear, clothes appropriate to appearing in court. And we go into God's court with praise, because we're saying, you are the one who sits on the throne. You are the one who sits on the bench. You are the judge who renders right judgments. You are the one who is worthy. And then you say, I have this need, and I submit this need that does not match your will in your kingdom, and I exchange it. The kingdom exchange. Come to me, ye who are weary and heavy laden, and in exchange, I'll give you rest. So, Father, in exchange for bringing to you this case of a bank who's wrongly forcing and escalating a foreclosure date earlier than, first of all, what was already given by them, and second of all, now we're under contract. They're trying to cheat this lady out of her equity. So this is wrong, and I come to your court to right this wrong, that we can have no delays, and we have the court approve the closing of this contract with this buyer. And then you call for the kingdom exchange. Father, I ask for your will to be done on earth in this matter as it is in heaven, because your court is a righteous court and you are a righteous judge. And we leave it there, but you walk out in confidence, and you know that it's done. You know that it's finished. So whatever you have, I want you to shift thinking from this realm of the physical body. I'm hungry, I'm sick, I'm homeless, I need money, whatever it is. Don't start, blame. Well, yes, blame the enemy. I'm not saying to focus on it, but you have to say, what did I do wrong? Right? Is this an attack? Or is there something I need to clean up? Is there some order that I need to place in my life over this situation? Such as when Jesus said, sit the people in groups of 10. Do I need to create a receptacle, an ordered receptacle to receive the blessing? So, Father, do I need to, if you talk about money, or do I need to get a bank account? Do I need to pay off my loans? Do I need to list what I owe? Do I need to sell everything in my garage? What does that look like for you? Do I need to rent out a room? Do I need to rent my car? Right? What do I do? Right? How do I structure this to receive your blessing? And now we're going to step higher. We're going to step now into, Father, I am stepping in behind the veil through Christ, through his blood and body, who's paid the price for all this for me. And I'm stepping into your kingdom, and I'm seeing the solution that you have for me. And I'm taking that solution back, and then I am calling it out. And I'm saying approved, 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 approved. So I want to just challenge you today to take whatever it is and be as Jesus is in this world, like 1 John4:17 and 18 says. So I'm ready to wrap up now, so you can go get with the Lord and work through your situation. And I want to bless you. The Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you and give you peace. May you always sense his Holy Spirit within you and will to do his will. I bless you guys. Have a great day.